I have dreamt about a white Christmas for as long as I can remember, but look at the freaking temperature here. 32 degrees? Are you kidding? I think I've just accepted it. So this year, we're having a freaking tropical Christmas. Merry Christmas! Whenever I'm throwing a dinner party, I always like to get dessert out of the way. So I'm gonna start with that. I'm making my tropical Pavlova roll. And it's a beautiful meringue rolled up with passion fruit curd, whipped cream, mango cubes. It's a dream come true, and it's just like my tropical take on a Christmas Yule log. So let's get cooking. First things first, let's make the meringue. When you're making meringue, you really want to make sure that the egg whites are only egg whites, no egg yolk escapes into there. So I always separate my eggs one by one. The idea is to pour in each egg white separately so that if you get a stray bit of yolk, it doesn't go into the bowl. When I'm making meringue, I always feel like it's such a waste to keep these egg yolks for something else and then end up throwing them out because you never find a recipe. But this way, because we're making our own passion fruit curd, we're going to use up these egg yolks. So just set them aside for now. And we're going to put these egg whites on a high speed and whisk them until they're really nice and fluffy. Once the egg whites are really stiff and fluffy, we're gonna keep the mixer on a medium speed and then add caster sugar spoon by spoon, really gradually, because you don't want to deflate all the beautiful air that's in this meringue cloud. When all the sugar is mixed in, I'm also gonna add just a teaspoon of white wine vinegar, and this helps it become really gooey and marshmallowy and easy to roll. And now just put it on a high speed and let it whisk away until it's really stiff and glossy and gorgeous. After about 3 to 4 minutes of solid high-speed whisking, you should get a really nice stiff mixture that looks like this. I've got a baking tray that's lined with baking paper, and you want to make sure that it's stuck into the corners so that it forms a nice little rectangle. Ooh, look, it's so beautiful and white and glossy. I sometimes find myself wishing that I could wear meringue like a dress. Don't you think it would look so good? But it would be very messy. Once you've got all the meringue into the baking tray, just smooth it out into an even layer. This goes into an oven at 180 degrees on fan mode or just 200 degrees on normal mode for about 35 minutes. It depends how crispy you want it to be, but it's supposed to be really nice and fudgy in the middle while being crispy and brittle on the outside. While the meringue is baking, I'm going to get to work on passion fruit curd, which is going to be this beautiful, sweet and tart filling on the inside of my Pavlova roll. 5 egg yolks go into the pot. Christmas is not a time to be squeezing your own passion fruits, but you can totally do that if that's your jam. It's not mine, however, so I bought some ready-made passion fruit puree from a baking shop. That goes straight into the pot. Some caster sugar. I'm gonna add some lime juice into the pot, but first I'm gonna take the zest off. And that zest is gonna go into the whipped cream. So we're really using every part of the lime. Set this aside. And now the juice of 1 lime goes in. Now I'm gonna give all of these ingredients a stir. The last ingredient to go in is some butter, and it's straight from the fridge, so it's cold. What that does is it kind of tempers the temperature of the whole curd so it doesn't cook too quickly and become passion fruit scrambled egg yolks. Now get this on a low heat and you're gonna be stirring the whole time. This is not a quick process, so you probably want to get some music on.
Passion Fruit by Drake from Spotify.
I'm happy with how thick and glossy my passion fruit curd is, so I'm going to turn off the heat. And what I'm looking for is when you hold it on your spoon and you drag your finger through, it holds that groove through the curd. Now I'm just going to pour it into a bowl. It might look quite runny now, but don't forget that as the butter chills and solidifies, this whole thing is going to become much thicker, and it's going to be the perfect topping for my Pavlova roll. So I'm just going to cover this with cling film and then let it chill in the fridge until it's nice and thick. Once the meringue is baked, we take it out to cool, but first I'll put on a tea towel and then roll it up so that it trains the shape of the meringue. First of all, I'm gonna whip some cream. Just to sweeten the cream up a little bit, I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of caster sugar and also the lime zest that we saved just now. And now we basically just wanna whip all this up until it's nice and fluffy. This is exactly what I want. It's holding its shape. Okay, now let's unfurl this precious meringue. Don't worry if it's kind of broken up in the middle because honestly, the cream is gonna hold everything together like glue. So this is a very forgiving dessert. Now the first layer is gonna be the whipped cream. Now a layer of the passion fruit curd. Just kind of ripple it into the cream. Now I have some finely diced mango. And now we hope for the best and try and roll it up. Now I just want to top this with a little more passion fruit curd. I mean, I went to all that trouble making this. You could also do a row of mango cubes down the center. I'll be upfront with you, this is not a dessert for a perfectionist because, I mean, look at it. But if you can't embrace imperfection at Christmas, when can you? And I promise you that no matter how messy it looks, the taste is absolutely on point. It's on to the main course and I really want a big meaty centerpiece, so I'm doing a really sticky, shreddable, crispy, slow roasted tamarind gula melaka pork belly. I'm using a bunch of ingredients, but it basically does all the work in the oven so I can relax for hours and hours until my guests arrive. This dish is kind of like a take on sweet and sour pork, but a lot of the flavor is going to come from the spice paste. I've got shallots and garlic, they go in. I'm also going to put in some dried chili that I've already softened in some warm water. Next, some ground coriander. I'm also going to add some galangal and 2 stalks of lemongrass. So I'll just take off the outer layer and chop it finely. It smells so fragrant. This goes in. And I'm just gonna whiz this all together until it becomes a paste, but if you have to, you can just add just enough water to make it smooth. That looks nice. I'm gonna stop there. And this is the pan that I'm gonna roast the pork in. So if you have one of these that can go on the stove, it can go in the oven, that's perfect. I'm gonna add around 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to the pan. Get your pan on a medium to high heat, and then we're gonna fry this spice paste until it's really fragrant and cooked through. I'm just gonna add some chicken stock to the pan. And now I'll add the gula melaka, which is this really beautiful, really flavorful palm sugar. But before I add it, I'm just gonna give it a rough chop. Now I wanna season this really generously with salt. I have a really big piece of pork belly. It's around 1.5 kilograms. So I'm gonna go in with about half a teaspoon of salt. Once the gula melaka is dissolved, I'm gonna add this, which is some beautiful tamarind paste. It comes from tamarind pulp, which I dissolved in warm water. And I'll dissolve that into this beautiful sauce. I'm actually just gonna have a little taste. That's a really good balance of flavors. It has the sweetness, it has the spice, it has that hint of acidity. So I'm gonna turn the heat off. And here is that majestic piece of pork belly that I was talking about. It's so heavy, this is basically a workout. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the whole thing, skin side up, right into the pot. And what you're looking for is for the sauce to come up to cover the meat, but not touch the fat and skin that's on the top layer. So I'm just gonna add a touch of water to this. Now I wanna give this top layer of skin, which I like to think of as future crackling, a good pat to make sure that it's really dry. And I'm just gonna sprinkle some salt on top. And you wanna give this a gentle massage and work the salt into the skin. I'm gonna bring this whole thing up to a boil and then it immediately goes into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for a full 3 hours. I wasn't kidding when I said slow roasted. The pork belly is going to cook in the oven for 3 hours, or it might need even more, but half an hour before it's done, just add some cubes of pineapple and cherry tomatoes to the sauce, and that's going to give it a lot of flavor. I remember one of my favorite things about spending Christmas in Scotland, where I used to live, was the German Christmas markets, and we had these stalls that sold glühwein or mulled wine. They were really strong, warm cups of wine mixed with brandy and spice. But who am I kidding? I'm definitely not going to be drinking some hot alcohol in this temperature, so I'm going to make a Christmas chilled sangria. The first thing is obviously red wine. I'm using 2 bottles because I'm being very generous. With sangria, I always try and use a red wine that's kind of fruitier in character. But I'm not asking you to be a wine expert. The simple thing to do is to look at the back label, and if it mentions berries of any kind, blackberries, you're good. I want that hint of spice in my sangria, so I made a very simple cinnamon simple syrup. The hint's in the name. It's really easy to do. I just simmer water with cinnamon sticks for around 10 minutes, and then I stir caster sugar in. And this whole thing goes in to the red wine. I kind of can't stand it when you get a glass of sangria and it's basically like a fruit salad in liquid, so I'm keeping things really simple. Just some orange juice and some orange slices. And of course, because it's Christmas, red wine alone just doesn't cut it. So I'm gonna add a really generous helping of some aged rum. Now just give everything a stir. Give it a taste, and if it tastes good, you're good to go. Now this sangria can just sit there until your guests arrive, and then you pile some ice in there, get it really chilled, and everyone is guaranteed a good time. If you like what you've seen so far, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and for more recipes, go to kitchenhoarder.com.